Welcome back. Week 7, the RTF Show is here for you. It's your handsome hosts here to give you some half-baked, hair-brained analysis of the football season. Brother John, how you doing?
Good. These hair roots run deep right into the brain. Uh, it caused me to start Derek Carr on Thursday
Yeah.
night.
Also, you didn't notice when we were talking pre-show that, and I didn't admit it, but I also started Mike Thomas today, who's got a big donut
Oof.
up on the scoreboard. So
Why?
why did I
You st
start Mike
Did you not
Thomas?
see Adams come out and demand more targets? He said,
Well, I'm starting Adams.
it, "Oh, you are? Okay, good." Because he said, "It doesn't matter if we are winning. I don't play the game for the W's. I play the game for the greatness."
For the fantasy points.
He said it was a crazy take. He said,
I
"I didn't
love it.
come here for the wins or the losses. I came here for the greatness," which fuck, Derek Carr just fumbled. Uh boy.
Great. Heading
Um
into halftime, Derek Carr fumble. Very nice.
yeah, anyway,
Um,
Devontae Adams left a situation in which he was getting 15 targets a game.
yeah, to come and get 4.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm glad he
But yes,
started him.
I am starting him. I'm worried about Debo, but we can get into all the injuries later. So let's get into it. We got a lot to cover. I mean, I think the highlight of the week is really the injuries. There were one, two, three, I don't know, 6 or 7 major injuries, major players in the fantasy world that were injured. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
I think
numerous.
I think it seems like a good half of those, maybe a little bit more, are going to be fine and play this week, but a couple that are out for an extended period of time. Let's wait on that. We'll get to that and get to the that portion of the show. But for now, let's start with the top of the league. Bill and Sullivan, not Bill Sullivan, Peter's dad, but Bill Boylan and Peter Sullivan. Man, just running through the league right now. 5-1 for Bill, 6-0 for Peter. They can't be stopped.
Incredible. It's actually shocking. I mean, I, you know, I personally never saw this day coming, in which,
I don't think,
Sullivan and Bill were just decimating the league.
mhm.
But
But here,
Peter gets away from his younger, the small fry Peter, sort of the, average
mhm.
Peter's mentality, and he takes sort of this, the Black Stallions, the dark horse approach,
Yep.
and just has an incredible draft and has not given up that momentum yet. So
Yeah, Peter, I think both of them beneficiary. It was a low scoring week in general. Um, the weekly high was this week. It was 126, I believe, and Ken
mhm.
won the weekly high, which 126 is a, respectable amount of points to put up any week, but I don't necessarily think it's going to be like at the top end of the weekly highs. Although this season it could be, who knows? Um, but Peter, a beneficiary of playing Kelly last week, who had a rough week, but ultimately Sullivan able to survive a rough day for the 49ers and Brock Purdy. And I mean, really, that was about it in terms of what he survived. He was really buoyed by the cheetah, uh, Mr. Tyreek Hill, providing 27 points. So, um, Yeah. And then in the other matchup, Bill goes out and beats the Mecha Peter.
Yeah, pretty amazing win on this end. I was very impressed by Bill going out and get the W. It was much closer. He survived a pedestrian, if not bad game by Josh Allen,
Yep.
um, which they ended up winning against the Giants somehow. Although that game was absolutely, I mean, horrendous.
Yep.
Uh, and then yeah, uh, Keenan Allen for Bill is, he's quietly putting together probably just one of, if not Keenan Allen's best season so far, right, in his career. Um,
Yeah, I mean, Keenan Allen's just doing Keenan Allen things. That
I
dude's
think he's
a
better than ever. I mean, I honestly do. I think he is playing better than ever. I mean, he's getting a ton of targets, but you know, he's got 4 touchdowns already through 7 games, a 111-yard game, 215-yard game, and then only one game sub 50 yards, which he's been great. But that yards per catch, I think, is probably what I like the most on his entire sort of stat line. There is every game he's had 10 plus yards per catch,
Mhm.
which I think is pretty incredible for a 31-year-old receiver. So when you look at other 31-year-olds uh, around the league or in history, you've got guys like, Julio Jones that just like fell off the cliff at 31, right? So um, I think Keenan Allen is he he's up there behind Tyreek Hill for probably the best receiver in the league right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think Keenan Allen has been just as somebody who owned Keenan Allen in various leagues for a long time, he's been a stud for a while. And I think some of the injury concerns, especially after last year, kind of give people pause about him. But you know, he's just out there doing. He's the most reliable hands in football, maybe, or up there with anybody who
Yeah, it's
could be
possible for sure.
could be the most reliable hands in football. So, yeah, I think he's really been a strong point for Bill this year. The other one I was just going to point out is a guy that I think we kind of scoffed at Bill for taking, which was Adam Thielen. Is just doing Adam Thielen things. The Yeah, what he's the second
Scroll down.
overall.
No, scroll down. Or sorry, yeah,
Oh, for $2.
two
Yes,
dollars.
yeah,
He got Adam Thielen for $2.
the number 5 overall wide receiver right now.
$2. This
Yeah,
could by far be the greatest return on investment in the first half of the season in all of fantasy football, at
yeah,
least in
it's
the RTFL. Um,
it's pretty incredible.
it is absolutely mind-boggling that he has
I
continued to put up, yeah, this sort of
I
production,
I
and
think
for the Panthers to still lose.
yeah,
So
I think if he can, you know, I I would say we for the last few weeks we've all been sort of waiting for the other shoe to drop for him to the fact that he's playing for the Panthers to catch up with him, and his age at that. But it doesn't seem to be doing so. And if this continues, um, in a pretty unlikely wide receiver room, Bill might have one of the best wide receiver rooms in the league in Adam Thielen, Keenan Allen, and Mike Evans. So
so all right. So as far as pass catchers go, right? Uh, you're looking at, for Bill, Adam Thielen. 33 years old.
Mhm.
Mike Evans, 30
Evans
years old.
again, 30 years old. Yeah.
Zach Ertz, 32 years old. Keenan Allen, 31 years old. Brandon Cooks, 30 years old. You don't get
Yeah.
until you get to Jerry Judy and Downs. Do you get anyone under the age of 30 in which they are 24 and 22 respectively?
Pretty
Um,
good.
and
Pretty
then Tank
pretty
Dell, who I
good.
think is probably 20, yeah, 23. So like
He's
you're
he's got a pretty old team in general. Even for running backs. I know he's got a couple rookies, but he's also got um, Keen, Kareem Hunt, who uh, played pretty well last week, and and uh, Aaron Jones, who's waiting to come back from injury. So
how old is Aaron
Bill,
Jones?
28 at this point,
Yeah, at
which
28, that means you're 32. Like,
as a
you
running
know,
back, yeah,
as a running back. So like
yeah,
I think his entire starting lineup outside of Josh Allen and Bijan Robinson are over 30.
yeah,
Like
pretty good.
this is what, like the uh 2008 Boston Celtics. Like
Yeah,
you got Rajon Rondo for Bijan, and then everyone
and
else is
then
old as
everybody
shit.
else. It's the geriatric squad. I love it. The the it's been a hell of a season for Bill. Very, very, very impressed, him and Sullivan so far.
Hmm.
Um, what about next? Where do you want to go next from last week, real
Yeah, I
quick?
think from last week, we had another big win. We touched on it a little bit earlier. Ken putting up 126. His team is just absolutely rolling right now, which I'm excited to see what happens this week. He's got a couple teams on bye that are going to really impact his squad, so we'll see. Um, but it does, it does bode well for him moving forward, right? He puts up a solid 126, enough to get that $25 bonus. And Brees Hall shows up again, which I think is pretty great for him. That he's got that, he's starting to figure that out, and I think Ken seemed to really want Brees Hall. So that's
Mhm.
good. And then we'll get into it a little bit later, but DK Metcalf dealing with an injury. We'll see how that
Yep,
goes.
yep,
But surviving a good push from Jake, which, Jake's score would have won him the week in most other matchups, to be
yeah.
honest. It was a very down week. So, just a tough luck of the draw there for Jake. Um, but yeah, I think Ken, like we said last week, which a lot of people said we didn't say, uh, Ken's squad is looking really strong.
I just want to say I checked the tape, and either none of you actually listened to the show, or you bought into Ken whining uh, about some of the adjectives we may or may not have used, which is, pretty typical Ken bullshit. When you're trying to pay him a compliment, he doesn't hear it. He just hears the negatives. Uh,
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
point, I think the point of contention came when at one point, John, you referred to Ken's team as terrifying. And
Yeah.
I, in response said, I don't know if his team is terrifying, but he's got a really good team. So, so me disagreeing that it was terrifying seems to have turned into me talking shit about Ken's team, which was not at all what we were doing. So
Yeah. I
uh,
like, God,
you can all
fucking
go fuck
Ken.
yourselves.
Now, yeah, and Ken in particular can go fuck himself. Okay? Like, this is the last time I'm nice to you. Like,
Mhm.
try to pay you a compliment. I mean, not last week was the last time because I just paid you another compliment on your team this week, but that's it. It's done. No more. Okay? It's
Over from
over.
there.
Ken
Over
Rose
from
is
there.
dead to me.
All right. let's hit one more thing from last week before we move on. Um, Alec has figured out fantasy football. I don't know what it is, the secret sauce that he's put together, but he's figured it out. You sell the best players on your team for as much money as anybody has ever gotten in the league uh, in draft capital back, and then just continue to rip off win after win. Uh, really,
I,
uh, really
it's like
kudos to Alec.
it's like it's one of those things where I'm like, is he like there's that conspiracy theory about like Jar Jar Binks being like Sith Lord,
Hmm,
like
hmm.
a Jedi Lord or whatever,
Yeah, yeah.
where it's just like, is he made like he's making all these moves, and we're like, what is happening? This guy has no idea what he's doing, and then it just like kills us. I'm like,
It's crazy.
he's
Good for
crushing it.
Alec. Good for Alec.
It's amazing.
You know,
I mean, Jacoby Myers also could be one of the best returns on investment so far this season, right? I can't imagine he
hmm.
paid more than $1 for Jacoby Myers because
$1.
he he couldn't, or he was drafted. Oh no, yeah, oh yeah, oh that's right. It was a Jacoby Myers. Peter really fumbled the bag there.
Yeah. Oh boy.
But that is, yeah. So anyway, Alec, you're fucking killing us. Um,
Um, very
really
impressive.
love it.
Again, the beneficiary of of one of his players just going off and having a huge week. Mostert 3 touchdowns. Kind of reminiscent of how Alec
Yeah,
won
killed me.
his last game, in which DJ Moore put up something like 50 points almost. So I have to believe, just looking down the rest of Alec's roster, that this kind of um, comes to an end at some point. But I'm going to give you a theory later in the show as to why I think it doesn't. Why I think he gets keeps it rolling. So, um, but we'll get to that in a second. Uh, all right. So let's dive into some of these. Well, I guess we should just say, first off, week 6 Survivor Josh, uh, who really that was all he's playing for anymore was Survivor, goes out
He
this
did
week,
say that.
loses loses by point 0.7 essentially to me, and
Oh my
is
God, really?
yeah, and is off the island. Sorry, buddy. Ken, on
Wow.
the other hand, as we said before, weekly high winner with 126. All right, let's dive into some of these injuries because there were a ton of them. So the following players left their games. A couple of them returned at some point, but the following players left their games with injuries last week. Fields, CMC, Debo, Montgomery, Jimmy G, obviously impacting other players there. I don't even know if Jimmy G is rostered in our league. Um, no, right?
I don't,
Trevor,
not anymore at least, but I don't think
yeah,
so.
Trevor Lawrence goes out, though he is playing tonight. DK Metcalf goes out, though he came back, I believe, and finished the game. Kieran Williams, and then a couple guys who I think may have served well as backups, but are going to be off the board for a while in Damian Harris and Ronnie Rivers. So I don't even know where to start really with that, but if you want to start, John, you can air your grievance with Matt Eberflus, who has yet to put Fields on IR,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
at least rule
Classic,
him out for this week.
yeah, which He definitely will be. I mean, if they're contemplating surgery, you're obviously going to be out for more than a week. It makes no sense as to why you need to do this. Uh, Bears are playing the Raiders this week, and Jimmy G's already been ruled out.
Mhm.
There's no advantage to keeping everyone in the dark. Uh, but anyway, I had to drop Rashad Bateman. I had to drop someone because Fields was in my RB because he was ruled out because everyone knew he was going to be out. So he got put as out on like Monday, I think in almost every um fantasy platform. But anyway, I uh picked up Carr. He for whatever reason it doesn't get slotted right into your starting lineup, and at that point Fields is doubtful. So I dropped Bateman. Gonna have to eat like $6 next year. So but it feels good because Bateman's a piece of trash, and he probably will never see another fantasy roster ever again. Um,
Mhm. Mhm.
could have dropped, let's say, Mims.
Sure.
Uh, but honestly, really hoping someone like Judy or something gets moved at the trade deadline, and then Mims gets more playing time because I don't know, he looks pretty fucking good when he's on the field, but he's only getting about 25% of snaps.
Mhm.
And it sounds like Mooney might get traded too, so maybe new team, new life could be good. So
Well, there you go. That
yeah.
I mean, I think, yeah, I don't really have a problem with you dropping Rashad Bateman. It's a pain that they won't put Fields
No, but
out
Fields
for
is
this game,
bullshit.
but
But we can move on because yeah, Fields should be either on IR or at least ruled out. Um that
so
Bears Raiders game's gonna be trash, by the way.
yeah,
Uh
that's gonna be a rough game to
yeah,
watch.
Banyere or whatever his name is versus either Hoyer or uh Alden O'Connell, who looks like a fucking cop's kid with that disgusting mustache. But I think a team that I do want to look at with all of these injuries. Um, yeah, if you don't know what Alden O'Connell looks like, highly recommend you look him up. It is fucking gnarly.
Okay.
Um, but the team that I would like to focus on with these injuries is Steve's team. I think Steve's team is
Yep.
pretty impacted here. It sounds like McCaffrey might not be out this week. It could just be a pain tolerance thing, but I think he got one McCaffrey, Kyron Williams went out, right? And then we're seeing Dallas Goedert also might have been injured. Was he injured?
Uh,
Oh yeah, he just
yeah.
pulled his groin. So, which I think that's probably a pain tolerance thing. But the CMC and Kyron Williams, that was I think that could be pretty impactful.
Yeah, I agree. So I mean, it does sound like CMC got some good news today. That it it seems like he might play, or at least there's a possibility he'll play, and they're not going to rule him out long term. Um, Maybe they're a little more careful with him this week, but it does seem like he's trending at least in the right direction. But the Williams injury, I think, is interesting, and I'm and man, it's rough that Steve has to put Zach Evans right into his lineup, a guy that has only played, um, I think, a handful of snaps in his NFL career, and who the Rams weren't actually comfortable activating for the first 4 weeks of the season. Was not on their active roster. They didn't feel like he was ready. He might get the start this week, but I don't get the sense that they obviously brought in Daryl Henderson. Um, And
Yeah, who's currently on the like practice squad, but I don't think that that is necessarily, you know, that it's that he could be called up at any time, right? And
I would
Henderson
imagine,
started,
yeah,
didn't he start games for them last year? So like
yeah,
it seems
I
like
would imagine he's gonna, Daryl Henderson's gonna play a little bit, I would imagine, unless he's in terrible shape. But um, they, it, I think the likelihood that it's a strong likelihood that the Rams are going to go to a committee approach, and that Evans is going to have a really short leash. And the other thing is, obviously, their passing attack is unbelievable at this point. Um, Matt Stafford
yeah,
is actually playing great.
yeah, he's very good. Yeah, can Kyron Zach Evans pass block and catch?
Well, I don't know
I
because
think
I've never seen him play. He's only
yeah,
played about 5 snaps. So,
I think Daryl Henderson, I mean,
yeah,
you don't have to be in great running shape to be a good pass block, which I think,
yeah,
I think that's something that you're going to see. And regardless, I don't think we're seeing a three down back type player in Zach
no,
Evans coming in. So either way, I think it's going to could be, most likely will be a committee situation. Um, but yeah, tough. I think just very tough for Steve. I think he definitely turned it on. He's taken over that division at 4-2,
hmm
and was really rolling there, right? But I think he still
yeah,
has enough star power elsewhere to get over that hump. It does come at a really bad time with Hubbard on bye.
yep.
Uh, and so
Yeah,
there's
Hubbard's on
there's
by. He
something.
picked up Singletary today, who's also, or earlier this week, who's also on a bye. Um,
Jamar
this
Chase
week,
is on his bye, so you're starting
yeah,
Watson and Flowers, which is tough, I think.
yep.
Um, you know, it's
It could be a tough week for uh
and who's
for
he
for
playing
Steve.
there? Uh,
He's playing Fitz, which I think is a good matchup, and or no, yeah, he's playing Fitz,
he's playing fifth, yeah.
who could really use a win and is right now getting a pretty good game from Kamara, but is not getting anything from your buddy David Carr in the way of help for Olave. So
Yeah.
I
3 field goals so far. Really good. Really,
yeah.
really good.
So I think
Great.
I think this I think it's going to be a close one. Uh, and
Mm-hmm.
if McCaffrey plays, my money is on Steve. I think Steve pulls this out just on the strength of McCaffrey and Hurts and AJ Brown. Um, if
Yeah, for sure.
McCaffrey doesn't play, Steve is in for a world of hurt having to start Tyler Algiers.
Yeah, who's
Um,
really only had that one good game, right?
yeah, or
Right.
or
He
maybe
he
he
had that.
throws in Jordan Mason, who
Yeah, I
the
think that was what you
49ers
would
have
have to
run a
do.
little bit
Although is Elijah Mitchell,
healthy now. So I'm not sure what I don't know. I'll be interested to see what happens with Steve.
Elijah Mitchell's
And
not healthy. No.
no, he is healthy now.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I'll be interested to see what happens with Steve's roster and with CMC, whether he's in or out. Um, on top of that, tons of other injuries just across um, the board. Oh, there was one pickup I just did want to mention from Steve that I thought was a sneaky good pickup was grabbing Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary not exactly lighting the world on fire, but I think the writing is on the wall for Damon Pierce in Houston. I think he might be slowly being shown the door. Uh,
Really?
he's fucking awful. he's awful. You just can't get anything going. And so I would be intrigued to see if this Devin
Yeah, it
Singletary
is kind of,
pickup works out for him. So we'll see.
it is a little shocking. And looking at Damian Pierce's numbers, I mean, with the passing attack being working so well in Houston,
Hmm.
that you know Damian Pierce's running production has been so little. He's on Fitz's team. Did Fitz start him? Speaking of
No.
this matchup, kind of a great little matchup. Oh no, because he's on bye probably. Yeah. Yeah, he's on bye this week. So, um, yeah,
Yeah.
tough though.
Uh,
I mean, you're seeing
just
a good passing attack in Houston, and you're still only getting 2.6 yards, 3.3, 3.3. Dude, it's tough. Yeah.
well, I mean, the thing I'm just going to point out here, the reason why I was thinking that too, like he's had those low yard per carry numbers. He had pretty much last season too. I don't think they were that low last season, but I don't think he cracked four very often last season. But the snap count
Not towards
went
the end of the
down.
season, but yeah,
Yeah,
you can
the
go to
snap count.
2022. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to point out real quick, the snap count went down dramatically on
Oh,
Sunday, and Singletary's rose quite a bit on
yeah.
Sunday.
Honestly, if
So,
you're looking at this, if you look at 2022, he didn't have a snap count under 50
mhm,
except in his first game
yeah,
for Damian Pierce. And
yeah,
now he hasn't, and I mean, honestly, it might have been he had very few, he had very few under 60% in 2022. And now he hasn't seen a snap count over
yeah,
60% at all this year.
yeah.
So very concerning. I mean, I think you're kind of onto something there. That's impressive.
Yeah, I think it's a
So
I think
good
it's
pickup by Steve.
a sneaky good pickup by Steve. We'll see if Devin Singletary can actually turn it into anything. Part of the problem has been that a lot of that line has been hurt, but I think they've gotten some of those guys back. So we'll see what happens. But I did want to call out that as a potentially good pickup for somebody who almost just lost two of the top 10 running backs in the league. Um, the other injuries, Metcalf back on the field. It looks like this week he will play, I think.
Hmm.
Um, I think we can expect to see him out there. Monty, David Montgomery going to miss some time. Um, it looks like Debo is going to play. Well, it looks like he might play. The 49ers have been as frustrating with injury news as the Bears have. So um, we'll see. But the Montgomery one, I did want to just talk about real quick, just in terms of we can go back to Ken's team real quick, because there was another pickup. Ken picking up a little Jameer Gibbs insurance policy with Craig Reynolds this week. Um, Gibbs, I don't know that Gibbs is. Oh, he did
It's
put
not looking
Gibbs.
good.
He did put
It's
Gibbs
not
into his
looking
starting
good.
lineup. So I don't know
Yeah,
that Gibbs
Gibbs
is
is
going to play
there for
though.
sure. It's questionable. We have not heard. I mean, yeah, I guess he was limited, right? But it seems like he's been close to going last week, at least last week. So we could see him.
Who?
And dope. Derek Carr just threw a interception or a
Oh yeah.
touchdown.
Well, he's a bad football player.
Should not
So
expect.
so uh, Jameer Gibbs, yeah, I do wonder if he is gonna. I'll be interested to see if he starts this week for Ken. When I looked earlier, he was not. It didn't look like he was in Ken's starting lineup earlier. Um, and if he doesn't, I'm not sure who he turns to. I don't know if he has any. I guess he starts Craig Reynolds, who also appears to be injured, but I'm not really sure there. Um, and then Metcalf, that injury, if Metcalf can't play, it could be a real, if both of them, Gibbs and Metcalf can't play, it could be a real rough week for Ken, who granted is playing Kelly and, is going to catch a bit of a break there. But maybe, somebody on Kelly's team pops off. Ken could be in danger of losing if he doesn't have either of those guys in. He might end up starting Dotson, who it appears I saw today. I guess he'd start the rookie in Seattle over Dotson, but I did see today that Dotson is now taking snaps with the special teams.
What happened? What
I don't know.
what happened to Dotson is what I do not understand
I don't
that
think anything
situation.
happened to him. It's not like Dotson was lighting the world on fire. He had a couple good games last year, but it's not like he was unbelievable, you know?
He
Um,
wasn't bad. I mean, he started the season really hot in 2022, right? And then got
yeah,
injured, and
got
then
injured,
ended the
came back.
season pretty good.
He had some good games. He
Bolstered
had
by
some good games.
touchdowns for
Yes,
sure.
exactly. Yeah.
But it is like when they played the Bears, Sam Howell threw for 54 times,
Mhm.
and he only saw 5 targets. He's out there, on average, probably 80% of the time, right? On
Mhm.
80% of snaps. It is kind of crazy that he's only seeing, 4 or 5 snaps.
Yeah.
His depth of target, though, is pretty good. So you'd think that he would be, or targets, you'd think
Yeah.
his depth of target is that good. You think he would be getting more looks, right? It's it's
He's
shocking.
not.
I don't understand necessarily, uh, you know, what's going on there. Why is he not
Yeah.
being targeted?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Um,
It's shocking to me.
yeah.
Yeah,
So anyway, we can move on from Ken Steen. We spent a lot of time talking about him, but I did
yeah,
want to
boo
just
Ken.
point that out. Okay. I think we've covered kind of the injuries. There was a trade in the league. Um, yeah, Zach Moss. Uh, it appears that some people do listen to this podcast, John.
Yeah, it
Uh,
does. It does.
it
It's
appears
amazing.
we
Zach,
may have
yeah,
actually affected a transaction in the league.
yeah,
Zach Moss to Bill for $15. I think we talked about it last week. This is kind of a no-brainer. Um,
for
good
sure.
move, good move for Bill. $15.
Mm,
I don't really have a problem with that, as everybody now knows. um, the
I mean,
and for
yeah, I mean,
Kelly,
it
I
makes
think
sense. Yeah. I
for
mean,
Kelly, I
Kelly's
think,
finally,
you know, good to get that piece off the board.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's good that it's very clear that she's done doing charitable acts in this league,
Hmm. Hmm.
and is no longer giving stud pieces away for peanuts, but um, that's really good. So I
Yeah.
survived Zach Moss last 2 weeks ago against Kelly, and I'm gonna have to do it again this week,
Do you
and not
do
off to a good start.
do you think this moves the needle for we talked about Bill's receiving core quite a bit. We didn't really talk all that much about his running backs. Um, does this kind of change the way you feel about Bill's team in any significant way?
No, and honestly, I mean, the way we were just talking about snap counts for Damian Pierce, if you look at Zach Moss's snap count, it went
Yep.
down significantly last game. He still got into the end zone, right, which bolstered
Hmm.
his fantasy production, but
Hmm.
he dropped to 50% in snap count. So, and only 7 carries. Obviously, many more targets, right? Which might might help continue, his fantasy value here, but we might be seeing a significant drop off as Jonathan Taylor continues to ramp up, which might lend itself to the idea that Kelly just fleeced the shit out of Bill. And we're looking at a little bamboozle switcheroo by Kelly coming in and just taking advantage here,
I
which
mean,
is incredible.
here's the thing I just want to point out to you. So Jonathan Taylor obviously comes back last week. Zach Moss, I was just looking at it. Zach Moss, I think, had 7 carries for 21 yards. He played
Hmm.
50% of the snaps. He did score that touchdown to kind of, even things out. It's not like they had a tough day running the football last week.
Yeah, Jacksonville's difficult against the run.
Yeah, so I think I, it's I think it's hard to say just yet what's going to happen with this backfield. If
I mean, you just
I
paid
mean,
Jonathan Taylor. You just gave him a
true,
big extension. You're gonna
true, but
start giving him the
it
ball.
might be enough for the next couple weeks for Bill to kind of ride out Aaron Jones coming back and kind of getting reacclimated to things, uh,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
to have Zach Moss. That said, Aaron Jones is back this week. He's in Bill's starting lineup. We'll see what happens. Bill also has Najee Harris in his starting lineup, so I'm not really sure why. Um, I personally would probably just throw Zach Moss in there, or Zach Moss. I'd throw Zach Moss in there. I don't
Oh,
trust
you don't want
Najee
to start
Harris at
Jerry
all.
Judy?
No, I don't
Yeah,
trust
yeah. I mean, I
Najee at
think
all.
either way, I think it was a great get by Kelly. I think, I mean,
Yeah,
if I had to guess on who won the trade, quote unquote, won the trade, it would be Kelly. I don't know if $15 is if Zach Moss is going to give him the $15 worth of value. But
we will see.
if it
Remains to
gets
be
him a
seen.
win or two, which it's looking likely, I mean, he's gonna get a win this week because Derek Carr's a piece of shit. And I said
Well,
never again, and here I am. But
if it gets him
regardless,
a win
yeah,
the next 2 weeks, it kind of secures, I think, a playoff spot for him pretty much. So,
100%.
um,
Yeah.
all right, let's hit one more. Um, let's hit one more matchup. I think we talked about Steve and Fitz kind of.
Hmm.
We've talked about you and Bill a little bit here. I The only thing I want to ask you, and the thing I'm so excited to see this week, and ETN is having a really good game. I think he's got 2 touchdowns already, right? Yeah, two
Yep.
touchdowns for ETN. Um, can Alec pull it off? Can Alec
God.
take down the Mecha Peter? Can he do it?
I think honestly, what it could come down to is one, I think Jeff Wilson's playing again,
Mhm.
or potentially be back from IR, but I think most are either way will still put up huge numbers.
Mhm.
Um, and then honestly, it could come down to whether TJ Watt plays against the Rams. right? If Matt Stafford, who is out Kyron Williams, right, and is having the run game is going to be subpar, probably at best with Zach Evans or
Mhm.
Daryl Henderson. They're gonna just keep throwing the ball, right? You could see
Mhm.
Stafford throw 50 plus times in this game,
Mhm.
and if there's no TJ Watt to pressure, I think you could see Stafford put up 30 plus points, which I think when you're looking
Yeah.
at Jordan Love across the board, I think could be the difference there. Now, that said, you've got Jacoby Myers and DJ Moore, who have a undrafted rookie starting for the Bears,
Mhm.
or Nathan Peterman. I mean, enough said. And then you've got either Brian Hoyer
Mhm.
or uh, Alden O'Connell, who is just god fucking awful. He started one game earlier this season. He looks absolutely horrendous. Um, and
Uh-huh.
uh, I think either wide receiver there is going to. I don't know how they're going to get more than 3 catches with those people throwing to them. So um, I just don't see how Alec pulls this out, except for an incredible game by Mostert and Stafford and
Uh,
Gabe Davis, I guess. I don't know.
okay. So here's my little nugget that I referenced earlier. Um, I'm not going to say that Alec is going to win this game, although the um, another no-show performance from Calvin Ridley, which is happening right now for Mecha Peter, um, could make it possible that 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 could give Alec some of what he needs to get the job done. But the thing that if Alec wins this game, I'm going to call it right here. If Alec wins this game, it's going to be on the back of Gabe Davis, who goes off against the Patriots for 30 plus fantasy points. That's my I don't know if it's a prediction, but it's my if Alec wins, I think Gabe Davis has a big hand in it. Uh,
I did see something, a
yeah,
stat
I
earlier
think we
that,
saw the same stat that the
yeah,
Patriots are basically number one against wide receiver ones and or sorry,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
defensively number one against wide receiver ones and uh 30th basically against
yeah,
wide receiver
yeah,
twos. That
yeah,
wide receiver twos have just feasted on them all year.
yeah.
So maybe this is the Gabe Davis game we've had for Alec since he sold. He's had the DJ Moore game. He's had the Raheem Mostert game. I think maybe this time it's Gabe Davis. And we just keep going down Alec's roster, and he keeps getting 35 plus fantasy points from one guy every week in order to prop up his season.
Yeah. I'm here for it, right? I mean, I think at this point now, like, I mean, Mecca Peter's 4-2. He's staring up at Peter at 6-0, and
Mm-hmm,
staring down at Ken at 3-3, and myself at
mm-hmm.
3-3. Um, let's pull a parity in the league. Let's get Mecca Peter at 4-3, right? I think Sully's locked in his playoff spot at this point. It's gonna be hard for him to lose out on or miss the playoffs. So let's just throw this whole division into chaos. I'm here for it. So
It would be great to see. All right, let's end it there. Anything we need to announce for next week? There's no weekly high next week. Nothing like
nope,
that,
no
right?
weekly high. I think we've got a halfway bonus coming up in week 8. We are looking at Bill, Jake, Ken, Michael, Sullivan, and Steve still on the island, right? So we
That is
are
right.